It was like all of a sudden there's like 3 other people coming in on the conversation across the table, just, while everybody else is kind of waiting in line. And it straight away, as soon as she's talking, I'm going, oh my God, she's really missing the signs. It was amazing because as I said to her, I said, I'm just going to point out, I think you are receiving signs from your son, but you're missing them.
Welcome, I'm Peter Williams, and for the past 10 years, I've been connecting with thousands of people from the stage and online to help them discover the importance of spiritual and energetic practices so they can thrive with confidence, clarity, and purpose. It is time to awaken your connection, align with your soul, and achieve your own inner power right here on the Inner Power Podcast.
Hi ho, listeners and viewers. I hope that you are well. I just want to do a couple of quick shout outs. Number one is I hope that you are all doing more fabulously well after the last episode where I did talk about the high, really intense energy and all the rest of it was like really full on. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who reached out, and I'm glad that I could help you that little bit further. And it's always a pleasure and a privilege to be able to do that for you. Now, the other thing too is there was a nice little double up here because we had that real intense energy. I was talking about that. And also, since I was last connecting here on the lovely airwaves, that I've also done the Sinking Signs Masterclass, which was absolutely awesome. And again, thank you to everyone who attended. These two things coupled together and a few of the little things that have happened while I've been back on tour on the road has really kind of inspired me to jump in on this and create this episode, are you missing the signs? It's a huge one. So we're going a little more witchy woo-woo. We're going into the spirits and the spiritual side of things, and we're going to be delving into that. We're going to be I'm going to do my best here to help you pull apart and help you to understand whether you are seeing them or you might be just completely and utterly missing the signs. And obviously after the people in the Sinking Signs Masterclass where we went really in depth, we had a good couple of hours kind of going through that. And I could see the epiphany moments, could see people go, wow, I never thought of it like that. Oh, hang on. Oh my God, I've been missing that the whole bloody time. And that's what kind of happens this week. It's refreshing to help people to see things, and no pun intended there, to see things from a different perspective, that different angle. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, wow, like I could have, oh my goodness, I didn't understand. I probably have been missing that and it's been there the whole time. So like I said, this is where it's kind of inspired. And of course, if anybody listening, if after this episode or any point that you feel like you want to go deeper with these signs, feel free. You can grab access to that Sinking Signs Masterclass. We have that there. You can come along and ask us for that, and we can send you the link to see if that's something that you're interested in wanting to learn or watch as the replay. So it is there. But this is and I love this because it's open. I have to admit, it's a lot easier to talk about this particular topic with other people. But of course, flying solo in the studio at the moment for this one. So I'll do my best to remain as succinct and as linear, for lack of a better term, as I possibly can. So this is the whole thing. We're just going to be jumping in. We're going to be looking at signs. And I'm just going to be pointing out a few different ways. Not necessarily are you seeing them? I'd like to think you all see them because I believe you're all being sent signs. It's just this, I'm going to come from the angle of I think you might be missing some of the signs and how you could open up your mind to see more. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I think that's what Spirit ultimately wants us for, because they're always trying to clue us in on things, send us some breadcrumbs to help us. But unfortunately, we get bogged down in everyday life. And we get very set in our ways, our routines and our patterns, and that doesn't do us any favors to help recognize that energy. That's where we're going to come from. There's two ways we're going to look at this very briefly. Now, number one is we obviously can receive signs from our loved ones, our past loved ones, and it's a beautiful thing. There are a very easy 10 that I can rattle off. But you know what? I would like you, just in this moment while I'm talking and while I explain the next section of what we're going to do, I want you to very quickly think of how many different ways you've actually received signs. I want you to do that right now here with me. how many different ways or how many signs and different signs have you received? And just quickly make a mental note. Like, you don't, if you want to get a pen and paper, knock your socks off and you really want to get better. But just kind of make a mental note. You go, I've got that one, I've got that one. And just see how many you can really come up with off the top of your brain without thinking about it. So we're going to have a look at signs from the past loved ones, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But where I'm really going to go is in the second part, is about signs for you in general. And this means signs from your loved ones, but it's also going to be signs from your team. It's going to be signs from the greater universe or your spirit team, your spiritual guide team that really help you, because we are all here. We all come down with the team, and they are always trying to help us and always have our best interests and outcomes at heart. They really do. And therefore, they try to send that to us. And that's where I'm going to be really kind of focusing on, so it can help everybody on an everyday basis rather than just focusing on the past loved ones. So that's how we're going to split it up. So we'll come back to number one now. So hopefully, I'd love to know how many different signs you come up. If you've got a number, I'd love to hear what you come up with. And if it's one, cool. Like, honestly, one is better than none. And I'm not saying that the more different signs, if you've come up with 12, that doesn't mean you're any better or worse than anybody else. It's just that obviously your mind might be a little bit more open. Just to give you a quick example, different signs that can work from spirit world, both loved ones and your team, like a common ones like feathers, we've got coins, we've got working through electricity, we've got through songs, we've got through like numbers, like there's also feelings, there's through nature or manipulation through nature. So for example, birds, insects, things like that. They will send signs through your psychic senses, which is always a fun one. Common one that a lot of people do get, which they underestimate, is their clairalience. Okay, and that's your nose. That's your sense of smell. A very common one that a lot of people will have is that when no one's around, things are relatively quiet, and all of a sudden you might get this massive smell of tobacco smoke. And you know that you don't smoke and no one around you is smoking, and you just get this really smell some tobacco smoke. That's usually quite a strong sign or symbol of a past loved one who obviously was a smoker hanging around you, and you might have that. So that's a clairalience. That's the use of your psychic senses. They can do that. They can come in to visit you in dreams. They can kind of also give you a physical presence. And what I mean by that is you might get the goosebumps or the chills, or you might just feel a beautiful kind of embrace, or like feeling hands on your shoulders, things like that. So they can actually give us a sense of touch or a physical sense. And again, that's working on your psychic senses, but also your physical senses. And it's a really cool one if you kind of get that. So like I said, there's a whole quick range of things there that you can look at in terms of signs. And it really doesn't matter how many or how little that you have, as long as you're remaining open to them. That's what matters the most. But like I said, we're going to talk about here about just in case you might be missing them, because this is a common question. So this came up in the masterclass, but I was also inspired by this because of a couple of questions I received when I was doing my live events. And so to help you understand this and work you through this, I'm just going to give you one example. And it was a beautiful, beautiful example. And I loved that I could really help this lovely lady understand the signs. So hers was, of course, being live event. It was more in relation to her past loved ones. Now, she just comes up to me and she says, "So, Peter, well, I know for a fact that like coins, I get coins all the time. So coins are my sign." I'm like, "Great." She goes, "And they're specifically 5-cent pieces." I'm like, "Okay." And she's like, "I always get the 5-cent pieces, and I've always found 5-cent pieces from my husband since he's passed, and it's always been a real comfort to me." I said, "Well, it's beautiful." And she goes, "But the problem is, I get these 5-cent pieces. I still get them today." She goes, "I found one 2 days ago, and I know that that's from him." But she says, "The problem is that I'm not receiving anything from my son, and he's only been gone for a year or two." And she goes, "Why would this be the case? So I constantly get these messages and signs from my past husband, but I'm not getting anything from my son." And I was like, "Ooh." And I could feel for her, and I really did, because you could see, like, I get these wonderful connections from my husband, but I'm not getting it from my son. Why would this be the case? And you know what? absolutely fair and legitimate question. And I love the fact that she did ask. But straight away, like as I was talking there, and her friends, it was so interesting. Her friends kind of leaned in and go, "I wonder what he's going to say." It was like all of a sudden there's like three other people coming in on the conversation across the table, just while everybody else was kind of waiting in line. And it straight away, as soon as she's talking, I'm going, "Oh my god, she's really missing the signs." It was amazing because, as I said to her, I said, "I'm just going to point out, I think you are receiving signs from your son, but you're missing them." And of course, that didn't go down too well. She was like, "Well, no, what do you mean? I know I'm not, because this is what I receive. I know I'm receiving signs, but I'm not getting any. So I can't be missing because I'm seeing signs." I'm like, no. If you can let me finish, I'll point out a fact. And she's like, "Okay." And honestly, she was lovely. She was honestly such a good sport about it. And we all her and her friends, we had a good laugh and a good chuckle and a smile about this. And what was interesting is, in her situation, and in this particular case, the 5 cent pieces kept coming. And that's beautiful, but she's not receiving things from her son. My team jumped in straight away here and I said, "Look, you are receiving it, and they're trying to work with you." Now, this is the key thing. Your team and your loved ones will work with you, because they know if they don't work with you, they're just making life harder for them, right? For all of us, and they don't want to do that. Now, what I said to her, I said, "What's happened is that you have become so programmed to identify the sign of 5 cent pieces from your husband that it's hard for you to see, let alone believe, you're receiving a sign from your son, because ultimately you don't know what that would look like." And with that, she's kind of taken pause. And I said, "But the beautiful thing is," I said, "I truly believe your son is reaching out, but he is also reaching out to you via the 5 cent pieces." Then full faces. So this lady and her friends were like, "Oh, like, how's that work?" And I said, "Look, when you find these 5 cent pieces, are you checking the date on the coin?" And with that, her answer was nice and honest. She says, "No." "Why?" I said, "You will receive the sign within the sign, and you have been missing that sign." I said, "Your son knows that you're looking for the 5 cent pieces, and he knows that you trust and believe that is your sign. So he's working within that sign. And so the dates on your coin will reflect that." And I said, "So the next time you find one, pick it up and then look at the date." I said, "You might find it's the birth date of your son, like the birth year, you know." I said, "Or you might find it's the year that he passed. Or then you might find it's your husband's birth year, or the year that he's passed, or your anniversary, or something like the year they got married, whatever it might be." There's other signs within that sign, and that's a wonderful combination of a physical sign with a numerical sign. That's how he's trying to work with you, because he knows that you trust that as a sign, but you're just not looking at it on that little deeper level. And all of a sudden, she's like, "Oh my goodness, I'm so daft." She said, "I never even thought of that." I said, "It's okay." I said, "It's quite natural." I said, "Because I've been working there for a long time, it's quite normal." And I gave the example. I remember I was speaking and I said this exact thing at the end of an event back in Victoria and Ballarat once. And I remember it was about 4 or 5 months later, I got a lovely message from a lady from that event. And she goes, "Hi, Peter, just got to message you, and I've got to let you know that I was there, and you were prattling on." That was the word. "You were prattling on about the signs and the coins and the numbers, blah, blah, blah." And she goes, "To be honest, I kind of switched off. I didn't take much notice of it." I'm like, "Oh, at least she's candid." And then, but further in, she goes, "But then today, I remember that event, and it's a big one. I say, if you can receive your personal sign from your guides or your loved ones, it will mean so much more to you than what a medium can give you. It always does, because it's precious. It's yours. You found it. You have an emotional connection to it." Some people have trouble believing that. But anyway, this lady from Ballarat, she messaged me and she goes, "Anyway, so I was out in the back shed and I was cleaning through some things with my late husband, Anyway, I was going through some electronics, a record player and a VCR player, whatever else. And she goes, then oddly enough and really weirdly, like I lifted one thing off another, and then underneath, in between, were 4 coins. She goes, 2 20-cent pieces and 2 5-cent pieces. And they were just randomly sitting there. She goes, I don't even know why they'd be there because it's in the back shed. Why would you put coins down? Etc. She goes, it's just really weird and quite random. But she said, I also remember your voice in my head saying, check the date. She says, I did. And on the 20-cent pieces, she looked at both and she goes, one had her husband's birth year on it and the other one was the year that he passed away. She says, I was beside myself as soon as I recognized those dates. The goosebumps just ran through her body. She goes, they just didn't stop. They just kept going down my spine. And she goes, and I knew in that moment he was there with me right there. And she goes, I can't believe it. And I felt it and I know it 100% with all my heart. And when I got to that part of the message, I was beaming from ear to ear going, I'm so happy for her. And she goes, I can't believe it. I've got my own real sign and message. And it means so much more to me because I found it and I worked it out. And now she has this connection. And I know that she knows for herself. It's a wonderful thing. And that's how they work with her. It's through these experiences. So I was telling this lovely lady at Newcastle and her friends, and they're like, wow, we never thought of it like that. How do we go about that? And so sometimes this is how they're going to work with you because you'll be so fixated on what you are looking for that you may miss other details. And coins can be a good one like that because there's dates and things in there that you can use. And that was a beautiful thing. And this kind of like leads on to how sometimes we really must learn and teach ourselves to go one step further rather than just going, oh, thank you for that sign. When you get a sign, just always ask yourself, what's more? Is there anything more to it? Should I be looking any more to it? All right. And that's a big thing. Now, where it kind of comes in, so that's kind of, it connects with the loved ones, connects with signs and looking at it. So that's an example of how you could possibly be missing a sign. So it's not necessarily a loved one or a past loved one, or even your team's not sending signs. That it's just that your own mind is so programmed that you may be missing out or bypassing those signs altogether. So please keep that in mind. It's really important to keep your mind flexible, to keep things new, to keep things open, so that way you can receive more vibrant and more direct messages. If you keep it in the same channel, then you're not going to receive more vibrant and more in-depth messages. Now, what's really also important, because this piggybacks off the previous episode when I was talking about the energy and the volatile energy, and what was really interesting is I was going through that, and then once I kind of came out of that energy and I had a deeper understanding of the energy, like I was explaining to you in the previous episode, about the evolution, where it kind of goes through. And these words were coming up. When I actually journaled these, and I actually finished my first journal off, 11 years, I finished the journal. But what was interesting, as soon as I did, I was like, I felt so clear, I felt so focused. And I was like, wow. I was walking around, just passed around the theatre at Newcastle there, and this was the night before the event, and I had that conversation with the lovely lady. But I remember I walked past and I looked up, and this massive, it took up a whole building, which is quite large, but it was like on the second story, but on there, so I had to really look up. And it was, and I took a photo of it, and I'll actually post this at the time of this episode so you can see exactly what I was looking at. But I actually did look up, and I'm like, wow, there's the sign and symbol directly for me. And what it was the sign or the symbol or drawing and painting, beautiful, colorful paint, very vibrant, very upbeat. But in the middle of this beautiful, colorful background was the picture of the Nautilus shell. And for those who have been following me on the journey, you know that that was a really powerful sign and message that I got many years ago. And all of a sudden, after all this clarity, I see this sign as well. And I was like, wow. And see, that for me, I love it because it's specific. It's very specific. It's very unique. And it means something very specific to me. And I love that. But I found this in the city, in the CBD, and just like up there on the second floor. So it's not like right in front of my face. It's not like it's on the ground. It's like I was looking up and I found it. And I was like, I have to take a photo of this because I'm like, wow, the Nautilus is all about growth. It's all about evolution. It's about expanding, moving out from what you know, becoming vulnerable, trying new things so you can grow. And I was like, wow. And even now talking about this is like talking about the energy before. It's all there and it's all kind of combined. So this kind of brings me to the next aspect of it. What happens is another reason why you can miss a sign is because you can be overthinking it. As soon as you overthink it, you've lost the meaning and it may not be a sign at all. You've got to trust what the first impression is. So in this case, I know that symbol and I do not overthink it anymore. That's what it means for me. I know what it's meaning. And when I see it, I'm like, I see it. Does that relate to me in my life right now? Absolutely, it does. And I'm like, boom. I'm like, there it is. And I have that meaning. And that's mean when I have that and I look at it and go, does it apply? Does it fit? I'm like, absolutely. All I do is smile because I'm like, oh, right. I have meaning, there's understanding, and I just happen to be open-minded enough and keeping my eyes up and I'm looking and I see something that very personally relates to me. Perfect sign and connects. And it's like, thank you. And that's a big thing. But as soon as you start to overthink it or you question it, you've lost it. This is the whole thing. Spirit will work with you how you know. No different to the 5 cent pieces. This lady knew the 5 cent pieces were a sign or a symbol. And even though it wasn't her son's direct sign, but he was using and piggybacking on that because it's something that she knew and trusted. So this is the whole thing. Now, a big one is people say, I see numbers all the time. It's 111, 222, 333, whatever, 11234, or whatever else. I always say, well, why is it not ABC? Isn't ABC the same as 111? So we have all this, but if you don't have your own specific meaning to that, then you've got to ask yourself, why are they using that sign for you? You can make it a sign for yourself, but is it a sign for yourself? You in yourself have to ask yourself that, and only you can answer that question. But the whole thing is, just because someone else sees it as a sign doesn't mean it's a sign. This is what I love about getting specific to you personally. That's why, like the Nautilus shell, it does not appear every day. I'm not going to run into that every day I'm on the road, right? And so that way, when it does pop up, boom, it has meaning. It's almost like it reminds me of Back to the Future. It's like, hello, McFly, hello, anybody in there? And it's just like, it reminds me of that moment because that's Spirit's way of going, hey, are you there? Are you listening? Are you paying attention? They're not going to give you things that are going to be necessarily ambiguous. If they're ambiguous to you, there's one of two reasons. Number one is you haven't sat down and worked out that message. So that's on you. Or two, I hate to say it, it may not be a sign or message for you, full stop. You have to accept that. I personally, unless I see like lots of triple numbers or the same triple number in a very quick succession, I will not take it because they're too common for me. I like to be really specific and almost to a point, like the lady with her 5 cent pieces, she knows that's her sign. And I love that because you have absolute faith and trust in that and you accept it. And that's a beautiful thing. And that's where you need to get to with your signs. But then you also need to be open for new ones, or you start asking your team or your past loved ones for new specific signs. So be really careful there that you're not overthinking it. Your team, your loved ones, do not send overcomplicated messages. Overcomplicated messages, if they are, will come through in images. A picture is worth 1,000 words. Picture of Nautilus shell, ocean, emotions, vulnerability, cracking open the shell, growing, growth, evolution. See how many words rattle off one image, one. Now, if you've got 111, good things are coming. Well, in what way? In what area of your life? See how it's too ambiguous for me? Unless you tie it with something. If you've got those numbers in with another sign, then you might be onto something. But your team will work with you. So the whole thing is I'd encourage you to ask them. Get specific with your signs. Be creative. Be open. It's going to really open up your world in terms of those signs. So you can get them from your past loved ones. You can get them from your guides. Now, here's the last little tidbit that I'm going to leave you with these signs. And this is why and Spirit gave this to me, and this is why I created the Sinking Sign Masterclass, because we've been viewing signs almost in the wrong way. like we've taken them, we've got great meaning to them, but they're saying you're kind of like, you've capped yourself. You need to look at this as a little bit more again. I've noticed this, and this is exactly what happened to me, like, a couple of weeks ago in Newcastle, like with the shell. And then you might have seen the reel on Facebook where I had the feather in the hallway on the 4th floor, right in front of my door, and I'm the last door there, so it's not like anybody's come walking up near my door and decided to have a feather party or feather boa, or they haven't, come back from the Great Gatsby. But it's just like, it was only a fire exit door, fire hose, not even an exit door, it's just the fire hose. But it's interesting, like, pop out there, I've seen the shell symbol, and then I've connected with other things when I've been walking around the wharf. This is why it's called sinking signs. So the reason why is when you are on the right path, or you are thinking in the right way, you are feeling more confident, and you're kind of going, I'm thinking I'm going to do this, this, and this. What you may find is your signs will be coming faster and becoming a little bit more often. This is why I call them sinking signs, because their spirit and your loved ones all combined are letting you know that you are on the right path. Whatever you're thinking about, whatever wonderful thoughts or revelations or actions that you have come up with or are doing, they're giving you the okay, because what that tells you is that you are now matching the vibration. So when things are good and when you're aligned with yourself, as we've kind of talked about before, but you will know, like, things get good, things seem to flow, life gets a little bit easier. Of course, why wouldn't your signs start coming in faster as well? So this is not necessarily saying, oh, we're just here and we're looking after you, okay? Not just like kind of a one-off thing. This is them, and this is probably more your team jumping in saying, hey, you're onto something. Keep going. This is good. This is a great vibration, great thoughts. Keep going. Keep lifting it. Stay in that space. It's such a wonderful thing for you to do. So, and that's mean. And when you get these signs, again, don't overthink them. If you start getting them in one after the other, like I saw the nautilus shell, that was the image. Boom. Okay. A lot of meaning in that. Once I've taken that on board, very next morning, feather outside my door in the corridor on the 4th floor of the hotel. Boom. That's got no extra meaning going, yes, what you thought about the sign yesterday was correct. Keep going. Same thing. And then another sign, boom. Or then there's a conversation with a friend and they tell you exactly, you go, oh my God, that makes so much sense. Boom. Another sign. It will come in many different ways. And that's how it will synchronize with you. That's what's so important. Your signs don't necessarily have to be one-off. If you are finding you're receiving a lot of them, then you are in a great vibration and keep going. The other thing too is if you're looking for that kind of confirmation from your team or from the universe that you are on the right path, to say, start sending me some signs. And all of a sudden you go, if that's a sign and that's what you've asked for, they'll send you a couple more and they go, yes. And you're going to go, cool, we're on this. But the big thing is always stay open. Start working out what your signs are for you. Remember, don't be afraid to go in a little bit more detail. Have a look a little bit deeper at them. But the other thing too is make sure that you're not overthinking it. Spirit and your loved ones do not want that there for you, because they know how hard it is for you. They know how complicated our lovely human brain wants to make things, but we are our own worst enemy. We will constantly overthink things, and then we kind of lose the whole point of the message. So the whole thing is, if you get one, take it, take your meaning, work out your own personal meaning, say thank you, and then hopefully you'll get more and they'll let you know if you're on the right track. It is there. So they will work really, really well with you. So hopefully this helps you, and hopefully coming out of the energy that we've been talking about, this will also start to shift, and maybe you're going to start to see some more signs. But you know what's even better is what's coming is in the next episodes. It's going to be an awesome double drop. I'm talking to a lovely lady by the name of Louise Wilson, and we're going to be going deeper on how, if you're not getting the signs or you're still confused about this stuff, then the great thing is we're going to be talking about how to get that deep and how to access some of this information for yourself to get that clarity for yourself so that way you don't have to always rely on the external validation and verification from spirit that way. So we've got a whole heap more here to cover, and I'm really looking forward to taking you further on this journey. But I really do hope this has helped you, and whatever signs you're getting, I'd like to know, and I hope this has helped. And you know what? Even better, get on the socials, post me your signs and symbols. I'd love to see how your loved ones or your spirit team are connecting with you. And just remember, I'm always in your corner, but even better, your loved ones and your spirit team are always in your corner.